He called himself the Skid Row Slasher, a phantom who butchered LA's homeless with ritual precision, leaving blood-filled cups beside each victim. For 11 years, Vaughn Greenwood hunted in plain sight, posing corpses like sacrifices to a god only he could see. The chilling truth? His final victim survived just long enough to whisper the killer's name and reveal his unholy altar. Watch till the end to get the full story. Vaughn Greenwood was born in Pennsylvania in 1944. His life opened like a file of neglect. His parents were ghosts by the time he could walk, and what followed was a grim carousel of foster homes that offered no warmth and even less stability. No teachers marked him as gifted. No neighbor recalled him as joyful. He was the quiet one, the strange one, the boy who didn't connect. He floated through the cracks of the system like smoke, shapeless and directionless, already dissolving into the margins of society. And when adolescence struck, it did not bring rebellion, it brought rot. Vaughn turned to petty crime not for gain but for expression. Vandalism, theft, assaults, all clumsy, brutal, and empty of strategy. He wasn't building a reputation. He was shedding humanity one infraction at a time. Chicago was where the dam first burst. In the mid-1960s, police dragged him in for slashing a stranger across the face with a broken bottle. The harm had no reason, no provocation, no trigger. It was pure eruption. Doctors peered into his mind and recoiled. They scribbled terms like paranoid ideation, delusions of purification, auditory hallucinations. But the system, slow, cold, and clogged, did not cage him in a padded room. Instead, it spat him back out with a few years served and a paper trail of warning signs. What happened next was not disappearance, but descent. Vaughn Greenwood reemerged in Los Angeles and slipped beneath the surface like an eel into oil. Skid Row absorbed him with no resistance. Among the destitute, the unaccounted, and the forgotten, he found a hiding place and a harvest ground. In 1964, the city shuddered, but only faintly. A nameless man was found sprawled in a back alley. His throat opened from ear to ear like a zipper of gore. A tin cup beside his corpse caught more attention than the man himself. Inside it, fresh blood shimmered in the moonlight. No prints, no witnesses, no leads. The case was stamped, shelved, and buried beneath the indifference reserved for homeless deaths. But death was not done with Los Angeles. Within the year, another man surfaced, another throat sliced open with the precision of a butcher or a surgeon. Again, a cup. Again, a scene drenched in eerie deliberation. The detectives began to murmur, unofficially, about something ritualistic. But no one took it seriously, not yet. Then silence. For nearly a decade, it seemed the evil had evaporated. It hadn't. Vaughn Greenwood was simply locked away for burglary. But when the prison gates opened and he stepped back into the world, he didn't run from Skid Row. He returned to it like a disciple to his altar. The bloodshed resumed in 1974 with an urgency that stunned even seasoned officers. 11 men were butchered within months, and this time the violence wasn't just efficient, it was symbolic. Victims were posed like puppets in grotesque tableaus, as if their deaths were part of some sacred theater. One man sat propped against a trash bin, mouth agape, throat yawning red. Another bore intricate carvings across his torso, arcane symbols that baffled even occult experts. The life-taker wasn't just taking lives, he was staging sermons. These weren't spontaneous slayings. They were executions wrapped in ritual. Detectives speculated wildly. A cult, a religious zealot, a copycat of ancient rites. Yet none of those guesses scratched the surface of what Vaughn Greenwood truly was. He targeted the weak, the old, the voiceless, men chewed up by life and discarded on society's curb. To the world, they were invisible. To Greenwood, they were corrupted vessels to be emptied. His twisted theology painted the streets in crimson, and each life-taking was a step in a purification process only he could understand. His scenes were sacred. Blood was not just a byproduct, it was a resource, collected, preserved, possibly even consumed. And though whispers of a life-taker drifted through Skid Row, fear alone did not sharpen anyone's memory. Most survivors didn't see a predator. They saw a man offering tea, a quiet figure smiling with hollow politeness, a face easily lost in the swarm of the downtrodden. He did not leave DNA. He did not drop fingerprints. He did not confess. And for months, he walked among the living, leaving corpses behind like burnt offerings. Then fate intervened. On a frigid night in January 1975, William Graham stumbled into a medical clinic with a gaping wound along his neck, blood soaking the collar of a thrift store jacket. He was dying, but he wasn't dead. And with ragged breaths, he spoke the name that would change everything. The man who attacked him, he said, was named Vaughn. He was tall, skeletal, with eyes like black marbles and lips that muttered things no sane man would say. Cleanse the body, purify the street. His words were fragments of a sermon nobody else could hear. The police scrambled. They dug through past reports and hospital notes until they struck gold. Vaughn Orrin Greenwood, a familiar phantom with a past pocked by violence and psychiatric evaluations that read like the prequel to a massacre. A man who believed he was a vessel for divine justice. A man who thought blood was currency. A man who claimed to trap demons in sacred circles. And so the hunt began, not for a man, but for the temple he was surely building. They found him not in a hideout or a motel, but in an abandoned church. The windows were shrouded, the doors bolted from within. Police breached the sanctuary and stepped into a nightmare. Candles flickered over an altar built from stolen things. Blood-stained garments, rusted sharp objects, cracked cups still sticky with gore. Vaughn Greenwood sat calmly in the center, eyes glazed, face serene, surrounded by the echoes of his own madness. He didn't fight. He didn't plead. He welcomed the arrest like a man fulfilling prophecy. Behind him, the scent of dried blood and burnt paper clung to the pews. They found journals, reams of inked insanity describing every life-taking he did like a psalm. Vaughn Greenwood was led into court not as a lunatic, but as a prophet of pain. He smiled during proceedings. He mumbled under his breath. He once stared at the ceiling for an entire day, claiming to be waiting for instruction from above. When asked if he had anything to say for himself, he simply said, "They're clean now. I did my job." The jury didn't deliberate for long. Life imprisonment, no parole, no release, no more blood on his hands, at least not physically. Inside prison, he became a ghost again. He didn't speak. He didn't cause trouble. He declined interviews, ignored psychologists, and scribbled endlessly into notebooks that would never leave his cell. Inmates said he stared at walls for hours, lips moving without sound. Guards said he smiled in his sleep, and the murder in Skid Row stopped. But the fear didn't. Not for the men who survived. Not for the shelter workers who still remembered his name whispered in soup lines. Not for the city that realized evil didn't always knock loudly. Sometimes, it whispered beside you, handed you a drink, and waited. Even in death, Vaughn Greenwood left no peace. He died in 2020, without visitors, without ceremony. His body went unclaimed. His story faded from headlines, eclipsed by louder monsters and newer crimes. But for those who knew the street where he prowled, he was never forgotten. He wasn't a headline. He was a shadow that once stretched across their reality. They had seen his face unknowingly. They had shaken his hand unknowingly. They had lived among the dead without realizing the Reaper walked beside them. What haunts the mind is not just what he did, but why. Was it madness? Was it divine delusion? Or was it something else entirely? Some fracture so deep in his being that only blood could fill it? Psychiatrists debated, ministers prayed, detectives speculated. But the truth remains locked in his grave, or perhaps in the notebooks that still rot inside prison storage. No one ever truly understood Vaughn Greenwood, and perhaps they never will, because sometimes the evil that walks among us wears no costume. It smiles, it waits, and it chooses the perfect place to vanish, in a city too loud to hear the screams of the forgotten. Was Vaughn Greenwood truly insane, or did he believe in a mission darker than madness itself? Could the system have stopped him sooner if anyone had listened to the signs? How many more names are buried in his journals, lost forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments section, And if you want more stories the world tried to bury, subscribe now.